You are listening to the BlahCade Pinball Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Freebus, aka Shut Your Trap. Joining me, as always, halfway across the world, Jared Morgan.
G'day, mates.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
It was Australia Day here.
What is Australia Day?
Australia Day is, well, it's a day that's a little bit contention-filled at the moment because of recent things. But the idea behind Australia Day is we celebrate what it's a little bit like, I guess, Independence Day or one of the national holidays you guys have over there.
Kind of like a founding of the country day.
Yeah, but it's a founding of the country when the English invaded Australia and, displaced all the indigenous people of Australia.
So it's going around scooping up all the Aborigines and locking them away, and then unleashing all the criminals on the land.
Well, yeah, basically. Unfortunately, they arrived. They back in 1788 when Australia was I guess colonized.
Yeah.
They considered the Aboriginals as fauna. They actually did.
Way to go, Britain!
Until I think 1960, Aboriginal people were still considered as fauna.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I know. It's similar to the ridiculousness of slavery.
No, that goes beyond. At least they were recognized as human, not plants.
Yeah, or animals.
Yeah.
Wow. Just terrible. So back in the 60s, I'm pretty sure it was the 60s. Happy to be corrected on that, but it was, they weren't able to vote in elections. They weren't able to, they were treated as animals. So isn't that terrible? That's a bad part of Australia's history. But...
See, all I know about Australia history, I learned from listening to Midnight Oil.
Well, that's not a bad crash course because,
they have enough songs that kind of detail all of it.
Peter Garrett was pretty political, so the lead singer of Midnight Oil. So it's not a bad way to swat up on some of the bad parts of Australian history. Listen to our musicians sing about it.
While bobbing your head along to it,
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is catchy, and I'm learning.
Wow. It's got a good beat to it.
Except poor Peter Garrett had a bit of trouble dancing. Don't know if you've seen clips with him dancing.
Yeah, well, when you're 6'7",
and all limbs.
And all limbs, yeah.
Yeah. It was very unique though. It was actually it actually became a real trademark for him. So own it. Dance awkwardly and own it. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. We didn't really do much for it. We just played pinball in the garage. Yeah.
Cool.
I actually a little mini update before we launch into all the deep
stuff. Star Race.
Star Race, yeah. So I sourced a piece of playfield glass for it. And it was pretty cheap. I got a good deal on it. It was through, this will only be relevant for people in Brisbane looking for a playfield glass, but we seem to have a little bit of reach now, so it's good to give props out. But it was a company called First Glass in Hammond, and they do a sheet of super wide glass. They'll even not put the stamp on it, the tempered glass stamp, which is sort of like pretty regular on a lot of tempered glass.
Mm-hmm.
They'll do that for, I think it's $86, which that's cheap. I think some places we're looking at around 150. So,
wow.
So yeah, I've got a good piece of cheap glass on the way. Well, getting made, and then I can go and pick it up next week. So that led me to doing a bit more ruggedizing of some of the light sockets underneath the playfield. So one big problem with old light sockets in games, I don't know if you've seen this in your games, but they sort of flicker, and they're a little bit like sometimes you get intermittent lights going on.
Oh, okay.
In them. Well, the way you can fix that is rather than relying on the conductivity in the barrel part of the light socket, you can actually so what happens is where the barrel part joins the flat bit on the bottom where the socket is. Well, what happens is the barrel just starts to flop around. It gets loose, and you lose your earth from the thing that goes back to the playfield, the little bracket that goes back to the playfield. So what you do is you just bypass the bracket altogether and just directly solder a wire onto the barrel, and then put that down to earth, and it fixes a lot of the light problems that you often get. So what I've done is I've been doing that systematically throughout the game, just running basically wire looms across all the different light sockets and just like hard grounding them. So it makes them a lot more reliable, and it's really made a huge difference to the brightness, and hasn't really cost me much. It's only cost me a roll of wire and a bit of solder.
Nice.
So it's cheap. So yeah, I've been doing that before the glass comes in, because really once I get the glass on, I don't really want to have to take it off again. And because it's heavy. It's like a super wide piece of glass is heavy. So
I've taken the glass on and off my machine so many times. And it's like the first couple of times you do it, you're all precious about it and not wanting to get fingerprints. And then you're just like, I don't care. I need to get in here real quick and do something.
Just, well, I've got to be careful because it's in the garage. I don't want to put the tempered glass on concrete.
No.
So I've got like this little channeled piece of wood that I use to rest the glass in when I take it off. And it works really well. Tucks it out of the way, make sure it doesn't get broken.
I always hate it when you have to pay, though, that much money for something that is like, I always do this in my mind. I'm like, okay, this is a lump of steel that costs the same amount as this bit of electronics that, does all these flashy, whizzy things, And it's always this weird disconnect in my brain where I'm just like, yeah, fine, aluminum costs a lot, but it's still just a hunk shaped into a certain, bend, and that's it.
Yeah. It's
like you shouldn't cost that much.
I could buy 50 buttons with that. Why do I have to pay so much for it? I know, yeah. But this is one of the things that I'm pondering, and this will depend largely on if I can actually find a $1 coin mech and a coin entry chute for the game. But I'm thinking of maybe putting Star Race into the Brisbane Masters this year.
Oh, okay.
And actually putting it into it's in the RNA, the Royal National Association Agricultural Show. They're having a 10-day event of pinball attached to the ECA, and the way it works is that if you put a machine on site, you'll get 50% of the cash box takings.
Oh, okay.
And then 40% goes to the ECA and 10% goes to the Brisbane Pinball and Arcade Collective, who are organising the event. So, it might be a way to recoup some of the costs if I can actually get it out there,
right?
And get it on site. And I think it would actually probably take a fair bit of money.
And then you're going to be like, Netherworld could have this for a little while. And
well, this would be the really big test for it. I mean, we play it, for like we played it pretty much for the whole afternoon yesterday, and it was fine. Like we were playing game after game after game on it all afternoon, and it held up really well. So 10 days of continuous play is a very different scenario for a machine of its age.
True.
So it'll be a test to actually see how ruggedized it actually is and how good Mr. Grist's board work is on it all, which I have no doubt is very solid. So yeah, I don't know if anyone out there has a coin entry for a coin chute entry for a Gottlieb System 80 coin door or a $1 coin mech that they would be willing to loan me for 10 days. I would, because I wouldn't. I mean, if there's one out there that people want to sell me, I could buy it. Right. But otherwise, I would totally give it back just for the purposes of this event. I think if I can get those two things, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull the trigger.
Cool.
Get this thing out on location because it's a game that probably no one has played here,
right?
In Australia. I think I looked on the owners list for Star Race, and I think there's one other Star Race in Australia, and it's in a private collection, and the guy is not willing to sell it.
Right.
So this would be the only one around that's playable. Very interesting. I'm going to do it. I think I really want to find that dollar mech. I reckon Jimmy could probably hook me up with the spare dollar mech from his collection of mechs, but it's finding that coin entry. Maybe Ed might be able to help me out with that. I'll have to contact him.
So last time I went into detail about the In Everdrains in Southern California pinball event out there in Banning. And one thing I forgot to mention, and I really didn't want to skip this because I thought I was quite impressed. I got to play two different Zaccaria machines that were there.
Oh yeah, which ones?
And so I played Pinball Champ and Pool Champion.
Oh yes.
Pool Champion, unfortunately, the left flipper, I think it was not flipping. Right. Or it would flip and then not flip back down. I mean, it was very intermittent as to,
sticky.
To the point of just being plain unreliable. You couldn't count on it at all. But Pinball Champ, I was able to play fully. And that happens to be a table that I had been playing a lot in the app itself. So I was quite familiar, at least, with the feel and everything. Now, my impression of the Zaccaria Pinball app that you can buy on Steam has been that its physics were kind of floaty, almost of the same nature as pinball arcades. Just the ball kind of lingered and kind of was lazy in how it went, and it had this weird bounce off the rubber and off the slingshots and stuff. And I just kind of attributed to well, they were just kind of emulating the physics that were on TPA, or you're kind of going with that. And I've been playing so much Zen now that I'm completely used to Zen's physics, and the Williams Zen physics are spot on. So that was kind of like, I don't know, it was kind of lowering my opinion of the Zach app, just kind of like making it feel dated.
Yep.
So I go and I play Pinball Champion or Pinball Champ, and I'll be damned if the physics weren't exactly the same as what's in the app.
Really?
Those tables are so floaty. It's weird. And the bounce the ball has, the way it's the slingshots trigger, fire the ball. It's just a very lopey, archy kind of feel to it. And I realized that I'm kind of being susceptible to what I complain about people that do this with built Bally and Williams tables that are older tables. Like if you play a Bally Flash Gordon, I'm sorry, those flippers there's a little bit of lag in them when you flip them. They're not that powerful. The ball doesn't go rocketing up, to the top of the play field. It's a different sensation. And a lot of people are like, oh, this, they want it to play like a modern Stern, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I hadn't touched a Zaccaria table in years, so I had no basis to judge the app off of in comparison, other than what I'm comparing to how a built, a Williams table would play. Yeah. So it was cool kind of getting on there and just being like, oh my gosh, they really did do a great job of nailing the feel, at least on that particular table. I gotta believe that it's that way across a large swath of the Zaccaria pinballs. And the same thing was true for even playing with one flipper on Pinball, our Pool Champion. It had the same kind of feel to it. So I just wanted to say that the guys over there at Pixel Magic, Magic Pixel, Magic Pixel, Pixel Magic, same thing, right? No, they did a great job and really managed to capture what those real machines are. Their nudging is still wonky. It still feels like you're nudging a boat, but rocking it in the water per se. But the physics of the ball itself and how it's behaving, after doing that, I was just like, okay, that's great. You guys nailed it. So
that's awesome.
The funny thing is, I mentioned that to our contact, Mart, that is over there with Magic Pixel, and he was kind of surprised.
Oh, really?
So he was saying, well, it kind of depends on the table and how it's set up and everything. And I was like, well, as far as I'm concerned, the setup of the real table that they had there was exactly how it is. It was spot on. So
yeah,
he was just kind of like, wow, okay, well, thanks.
Cool, I guess.
Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I just wanted to point that out, that was rather...
I've only ever played Zaccaria on Android because that's the only one I've got entitlements on. And it's always felt floaty to me as well, even on Android. But I've come to realize that machines of that era, like the 80s, like late 70s, early 80s, that's kind of how they all played. Like even though I've got extra leg extenders on Star Race that jack up the playfield a lot higher, and it's still slow and still floaty, and whenever it hits a solenoid, the ball just rockets, very much like Flight 2000 when you're playing it in Pinball Arcade. Like it's floaty until it hits a powered surface, and then the thing just goes boo and rockets everywhere. So it seems to be that's just a thing with that era of pinball machine. That is actually how they play.
I was gonna say, if you've ever touched a Future Spa or what is the what are those other Bally wides, the Paragon,
oh yes,
and not Paragon, Embryon,
Yeah.
Anyway, those super wides, man, they are just slow,
Float
so
City.
slow, slow, slow.
Yeah. You could almost like go and have a sandwich between each shot. It's
Yeah.
that slow. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. They just seem to be that transitional game before they actually started getting ramps and stuff in them where everything was still playing like an EM.
Yeah.
But it was solid state, but it was still EM style gameplay to it. It's, very interesting. Yeah.
Speaking of apps, I briefly touched upon it last time, and Jared had to run, so I kind of did an abbreviated version. But I kind of want to dive a little deep because I've been playing the various Zen apps a lot. It started with doing the beta for Williams Pinball on iOS, which, speaking of, folks, you're going to want to pay attention to digitalpinballfans.com over the next week or so. I'm not sure when it's going to happen, but the Zen is about to put out the open beta, or not open beta, but taking names for the beta for Android for Williams Pinball. So if you want to be a part of that, you're going to want to pay attention because that's where they're going to collect the names from to be able to join in. But anyway, so I've been playing a lot of that, and that got me to I'd had the Aliens versus Pinball app on my phone, and I hadn't really messed with it that much. I have the eSport edition, which I've messed around a lot with, and I didn't realize that Bethesda Pinball was also a free to play, so I downloaded that and started messing around with that. So I have currently 6 different Zen apps of pinball.
6 different Zen experiments.
Right. And that's exactly what they are. They're kind of experiments because they all do different things. So, like, again, esports edition, that's entirely for skills, to play for money. Bethesda Pinball does the matchups that you can play in FX3. Alien versus Pinball, that one was all about reaching goals.
So your daily challenges style thing?
Well, no, it's not even it's not the daily challenge thing, but they had score goals in order to open up eggs. Once you open up 3 eggs on a table, that unlocks the next table. Open up 3, that unlocks the next table. And so it was score goals. Reaching those, and then and sometimes it would be, reach this score over the course of however many games you need, just collect that many points. And then it would be reach this score with only 1 ball.
Right.
And then it would be reach this score within 1 game, kind of thing. So, I mean, there was various scoring brackets. But Alien versus Pinball didn't have any component of you competing against anybody else. Whereas Bethesda, with the matchups, you are competing for rank with other people.
Okay.
Then there's the Williams Pinball app, which I'm testing out. Now that one has your daily challenges, and the ability to earn all of the tables for free.
Right. Okay.
Because basically what you do is you're collecting table parts by playing daily challenges. You get these little tickets that you can flip over. Some of them are table parts. Some of them are it'll be specifically, say, fishtails table parts.
Okay.
Collect enough table parts, you unlock an upgrade, if you will. There's 4 star levels of upgrade that you can do. By purely getting to the 2nd star upgrade, you now can play the table for free. But that's in what I would call the Zen physics
mode. Yeah.
If you want to play with the and this is what I'm kind of going to drive at, is that there's no unification of anything. So, okay, if you play in FX3, you have single player mode, and then you have single player classic. Single player classic is the new physics within Williams Pinball games that match those of the actual table.
Yes.
Within that, you have arcade and tournament as your choice, and that determines
whether you're playing
the setup,
regular rules or tournament rules.
Tournament rules, right?
Yes.
Well, within the Williams Pinball app for mobile devices, they have pro mode and arcade mode.
Pro mode and arcade mode.
Pro mode, I think that's what it's called. I'll take a quick look, but pro mode is basically the new physics.
Right.
Sort of.
Right.
Because it's broken down even further. Because there's pro difficulty.
Right.
And then there is, I'm bringing it up right now. But my point is, they don't use what the terms are being used in
their Steam and console apps.
Exactly.
That seems weird. That's going to make it really hard to draw up tournaments, right? Because you're going to have.
So so they have pro difficulty, but under that there's a symbol that one is like of a controller.
Okay.
That's your regular Zen physics. And then there's one of a trophy, and that would be your
advanced physics.
Advanced physics, yeah, if you want to call it that. Now, okay, so they have pro difficulty and pro physics. So I'm guessing pro difficulty is more your rules, and pro physics are
your tournament and your regular play.
Right.
Yeah.
But the problem is if I'm talking about the app and I say, oh, I'm playing in pro mode, well, that doesn't translate to somebody that's playing.
That's right. It needs to be classic Zen.
Exactly. Just unify the language.
Absolutely. I reckon they should totally do that because, it's going to be really hard for people who are playing on mobile platforms to converse with people who are playing on other platforms. And I really thought that was the whole idea behind Zen's ethos, is they're creating a game ecosystem.
Right.
Like, an actual universe that everyone can, work together in. And essentially having this split in language is essentially you're going to need to learn a new dialect in the same ecosystem or world to understand what's going on. And that's a disconnect that they need to solve.
So my point being, though, if you want to unlock the visual extras being the ability to see it in Zen enhanced mode or not, that's where you have to earn more stars.
Right.
Now, like I said, earning those first 2 stars relatively easily. You're not going to have to grind that much. You'll be able to then play the table for free. You want to get all this other stuff, there's a lot of grinding.
You got to grind.
I was grinding, and here's the thing. I was grinding when it was easy for us in the beta to collect this stuff.
Before everything was leveled.
Well, it was before everything was leveled. The daily challenges were rotating every hour to 3 hours.
Right.
So you were getting multiple daily challenges within a day-long period. It still took me about 2 or 3 weeks before I had unlocked every single table.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. So you can imagine if you're just only getting 1 shot at a daily challenge, maybe 2 per day.
That's probably like about 5 or 6 weeks.
It's going to be a lot of grinding.
Yeah.
Well, so in order to... Here's where the paywall fund comes in. You can buy the upgrades, skip having to grind it by buying Z coin.
Yep.
The Z coin is significantly more expensive than the other apps if you want to just outright buy a table.
All right. Okay. So how much more expensive are we talking?
Well, if normally they were charging like $2.99 a table, now you're looking at maybe $11 per table.
Geez. Okay. That's getting towards like, Stern Pinball arcade pricing for tables.
Right.
Yeah.
They're still tweaking the balancing of what the cost is of everything.
I think that's probably going to be tweaked a little bit down.
It might be tweaked a little bit down, but here's the thing. I honestly don't think it's bad.
You don't think it's bad? Do you think it's better to actually grind and like participate in the way the game's supposed to be played on mobile?
Well, and here's the thing. Yeah, I enjoy the grinding on mobile because what it's giving me is it's giving me these really short games. Because the daily challenges are at most, if you're playing a 5-minute game, 5 minutes. Otherwise, single ball and stuff like that, they're going to be relatively short games, which tends to be what you want to play on mobile anyway, right?
Well, think God forbid being on the bus, right? Like your bus or the train, you want to like just smash out a quick game of pinball and then get on with your day. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, right.
Exactly. Now, so I'm sitting there playing Aliens Pinball. I've now unlocked all 3 tables. If I want to play a table outright, not in a shortened form, but play all 3 balls and everything, it's either I have to watch a video, I have to fork over some tickets, if you will, or I'm going to have to pay for the table outright. There's no way of actually just plain earning the table scot-free without any adverts or anything like that.
Yep.
So that kind of diminishes my want of doing anything more. Like, once I was done with all the grinding of opening up everything that I could open up, now there's nothing to do with it. And now it's just, back to just regular kind of play.
Yeah.
And like I said, that regular play now comes with, hey, well, you still got to watch ads. You still got to, and so I'm like, I like the idea of being able to actually just plain earn it outright. Bethesda Pinball.
Yeah.
Bethesda Pinball is grinding with doing the daily matchups, but again, there's no way of earning the tables outright. You're always going to have that. You got to fork over some coin if you want to play a regular game on it.
Yeah.
Now, here's where the Bethesda Pinball kind of bothers me, is that it's way floaty, especially when you compare it to how it plays in FX3. FX3, it plays great. It plays like all the regular Zen. The app, it just kind of lopes the ball. And so it's like, I want them to go in and I want them to make all of these apps have the same kind of menu, the same user interface. I want them all to use the same upgrade systems, whether it's being, Zencoin and tickets. Go in there and make them all the same, so that whenever I open up a new app, I'm not going, well, what do I press now? Where do I go now? This is different from what I'm, saying.
Yeah. I guess that is only important if you again, I know you're putting on the hat of a free-to-play customer here. But of course, if you've got Zen FX2 on or Zen Pinball on Android, they're all there for you. But you don't get any of the competition, of course.
Exactly. There's no matchups in those. There's no daily challenges in those.
And you've got to pay your $2.99 per table to unlock it. But once you're unlocked it's unlocked.
Right. So again, you're still having all these apps if you want all those various options.
That's right.
So Williams Pinball uses Game Center. Well, they all use Game Center, but I think for login purposes, Williams Pinball uses Game Center also. Bethesda and Aliens, they want to use Facebook to match you up with friends. So again, I just want it all to be, line through, straight thing. So I'm hoping when Zen comes out with their mobile version of FX3, if you will, that it does just that it unifies everything, makes it all the same, no matter what app you open, that it kind of functions the same way, navigates the same way, uses the same upgrades, that those upgrades carry over. Because that's the one thing I like about skills. Whatever money I earn in the esports edition of Zen, that money can be applied to any other skills game that's out there.
That's pretty cool, eh? Yeah.
So
I was really surprised when you were mentioning that when you were beta testing the Farsight version of their skills implementation. I went, so it's like a universal bucket of money.
Yes.
Very cool. Yeah, that's really good. That would make me, if I was like into that sort of competitive style play, want to actually find more skills games or skills enabled games to potentially look at. It would actually almost be in itself an acquisition tool for me to go, what other games support skills? Because I want to earn more money in these. And it would probably open up genres for me, because, it might take me away from pinball. It might get me into, I don't know, Match 3 or something like that, that has skills components in it. So it's an interesting add-on to games, just to sort of broaden their appeal and broaden their reach, because it would go for the same thing. If there's other competitive people playing in other game genres, and now all of a sudden your skills flash up a banner saying, hey, this is now available in pinball, come and try it out. It's another way people can get in.
The other thing that's weird with, and again, I'll go with Bethesda, because because you had to play a certain amount of matchups before you could unlock the next table. Well, once you unlock the next table, and again, those were daily, you got an allotment of 3 matchups per day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, once you unlock the next table, well, now you have 6 matchups for the day. So
Ah,
unlocking the third table didn't take long at all.
right.
Getting that second table unlocked took quite a while.
Right.
But those matchups, so you start and you're ranked, I don't know, 700,000th,
Right.
whatever.
Okay.
And you get 3 matchups to pick between. And if you look at their rankings, just go for the one that has the best ranking, because if you beat their thing, then you've beat that rank, and now you're ahead of them, right?
Yes.
The weird thing is the score. There's also a score that's associated with that person, and that's the score you have to beat.
Yep.
Sometimes the lower ranked person will have a way higher score than the higher ranked person.
Yeah.
I don't get that at all. Doesn't make sense to me. With my first table of choice was Doom, and I've gotten all the way down to, I think I'm now in the 20,000th ranking, somewhere in that vicinity. And the score, I'm 21,832nd.
Wow. Okay.
But here's the thing: the scores have barely moved that entire time. So the score I typically have to beat is, say, 1.6, 1.7 million.
That's not that hard. Right?
My ball launch is 1.5 million.
Right.
If so long as I hit the ball, because I've got a boost multiplier on it right off the bat, I get 1.5 million, and then I go, and the first thing I do is if I shoot the skull, and that's where you get your missions. There's one called the Hell and Back, which essentially is playing Arkanoid, and I can beat that thing virtually every time, and that's worth a solid 8 million. So I'm already up to almost 10 million without doing much.
Yeah.
And yet I'm still competing against scores of 1.6, 1.7 million. And I'm like, when are these going to get good? When is this going to get competitive?
It's almost like you have to, like, it's a ladder system, and you have to climb each rung of the ladder. So even though you're getting 10 million scores, you've still got to climb that single rung. You can't bypass 8 rungs. You got to keep on climbing one rung.
Sometimes you are able to bypass large chunks of ranking, but yeah, it's taking a long time. It's not very rewarding, and that was my problem with matchups in FX3. It just didn't seem. It didn't seem like you were playing against anybody real. It seemed like these arbitrary
accounts,
bot scores. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing where sometimes the higher ranked person would have a lower score. I don't know where the scores are coming from. It doesn't make a lick of sense to me.
Do you think it could have been the case where somebody like you had a really great game on a really 10, let's call it 10 million point score on a game, and they had a really good game, but they were also sort of low ranked and they just had a great game? That's why it's throwing out the score, because that would make sense. Like their last posted score for this round, their last posted score that they actually put up was this score, and now they're competing against you in this tier sort of thing.
I don't know, because it makes me wonder, is there a score out there with my name attached to it, and what score are they using?
Oh yeah, that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Because my scores have been so far and above beyond whatever the score is that I'm trying to beat. I can't imagine if somebody went to go play against me right now at my 22,000 whatever, and I'm showing a score of 13 million. Well, that's significantly more than, and I haven't come across any score that's been even remotely close to it. So I don't know. It's weird. So again, I just kind of want this unification of it all.
So after they've got the data they need from all these different experiments. Now it's time to actually unify the experiments into one more cohesive ecosystem on mobile, at least.
Yes.
Because I think there is still going to be that division between console, Steam, and mobile.
Yeah.
purely because of the nature of those 3 platforms. So it's still going to be close, but I don't think I don't know. I don't know if the mechanics are actually going to be the same in each, I guess, ecosystem. It's going to be three major land masses. Let's call it that in the world of Zen Pinball, and each one will be slightly different, but they'll still be in the Zen universe.
Because similarly with Williams Pinball, and I mentioned this before, there's all sorts of custom flippers that they've created, custom balls, custom ball trails. And I'm like, well, why don't you put these in FX3? Let us mess around with customizing rubber and customizing what the little sticker on top of the flipper looks like. Customizing, I want smoke coming off of my ball instead of fire. It's I don't know why that kind of thing isn't put into FX3, other than the fact that they're looking at it as this is microtransaction kind of fodder. And people on a console aren't going to go for microtransactions.
No, well, nor on Steam, they wouldn't want that either.
But it would get me. It would get me to play the matchup mode in FX3, which I've completely, other than that first month it came out, I've never touched it since, because I just did. To me, it was the Pinball Arcade tournaments grinding that you went through. That's right. I mean, to the point that you would see that what score you had to get in order to bump up to the next level, and there was no way you were going to do it. So
that's right. That's funny. I think I'm still gold in the Pinball Arcade tournaments, and I haven't played it for literally a year.
And see, Zen, if you miss a week, you drop.
See, that's how it should be. Like, I should be bronze and way down the back end of the field in bronze in Pinball Arcade now, but I'm not. I think I'm still gold. So I just don't understand. It's one of the many things I don't understand.
Anyway, those are my thoughts on the apps in general.
So, I mean, to summarize, let's get everything back onto a level playing field. Let's make sure the apps are all standardized as much as they can be. Let's wind up the experiments into a more, I guess, more coherent package that if anyone switches between those particular apps, they're going to have a pretty similar experience using them, because that's really the most important thing, isn't it?
Well, because if I bought Bethesda Pinball for the Zen Pinball app, is it going to play the same way that it currently is playing on the standalone app? Because if it is, then I don't like it, because it's too floaty compared to every other Zen table.
That's right.
So even you need to standardize the physics across these things too.
Yeah, basically if it's in the core app, then make it the same as the core app, and then roll that out into the other ones. Yep, I agree. Make it standard.
Yeah.
Make it consistent.
So the other thing that I noticed, especially with Bethesda, the audio, if you're not playing with headphones, it crackles all the time. Like, it's just like you'll be playing all of a sudden go like the speaker can't handle it. So I plugged in my headphones. Well, there's a lot going on audio-wise in those. And then the other thing that I noticed was with Doom, because I've never played the actual table, or the actual game, I should say. But the music that they used in it, I was like, boy, this sounds a lot like Nine Inch Nails. And I know that Trent did the music for Quake.
Yep.
So I listened to just a sampling of the music from Quake and was like, boy, I think that they ripped it right off of that and went, that's the sound we're going to use for Doom 2016.
Model it off that. Thank you and please. Yeah. That's funny.
Because I could have sworn that I was like, well, I didn't know. Maybe Trent did the music for Doom also, but no, he didn't.
Yeah, that's right. So what else have we got to talk about today?
What else do we have to talk about? Let's see. Things that have happened. My movie pass is officially over.
Okay.
So I'm back to, I'll only be
plebeian viewings of movies.
Yeah, I'll only be seeing a handful of movies in the theater, and everything else will be wait for video and renting it. That being said, I really want to go see Alita Battle Angel in
In the
IMAX,
movie.
in
Oh,
IMAX 3D, no less.
oh wow, that'd be
Well,
incredible.
here's the thing. I don't know if you know anything about it, but Alita was being developed back in 2000 by
Mm,
James Cameron, and he basically had a script for Alita and he had a script for Avatar, and he didn't know which one he was going to do. And he
right.
decided that Avatar was the more doable of the two
From a actual cinematography perspective and
from
effects.
effects. Well, yeah, where effects were and everything like that.
Wow. Okay.
So he went and did Avatar and then realized that he was probably never going to get around to Alita. But he'd done all this pre-work
Work.
on it.
Yeah.
So he has gone and teamed up with Robert Rodriguez, who many people consider him an utter hack, but there's some brilliant movies that he's put out. And he decided that he was going to make it as if Jim Cameron actually made it himself. So
Right.
kind of throwing away his aesthetics and trying to duplicate Jim's. And Cameron is full on board as a producer of this. And the funny thing
Okay.
is Cameron was like, "No, go ahead, make it your own, make it your own." He goes, "No, you don't understand." He goes, "I'm treating this as if I've never seen as this is the Jim Cameron movie I was promised, and I want to see that movie. I don't want to see my movie. I want to see your movie that you just didn't happen to make."
Oh, right. Okay.
And so he's using all the same effects companies that Cameron uses, with Weta Digital and stuff. They also shot it natively 3D, which is rare these days. Most people do post conversion.
Yeah. How does that
Um,
translate back to like regular 2D? But does it? Can
oh
you
yeah,
actually?
yeah, because they just use one camera's information instead of
Oh,
both
right.
cameras.
Okay.
But when you
Right.
shoot something natively 3D, you're seeing it on set how it translates,
Mm-hmm.
and you frame accordingly. There is a different framing mechanism for shooting 2D standard movie versus shooting 3D.
Right.
And one of those things is if you have an object that is slightly off camera, which is
Mm-hmm.
done all the time in standard 2D. In 3D, it looks odd because this thing is now out of focus, but clearly at the proscenium arch of the screen.
Okay.
So if you have that thing though all the way over, so that it's fully on screen, now your eye accepts the three dimensions much easier.
Oh, so
And,
it's
and
actually
it,
bringing it into more of a three-dimensional ocular view sort
yes,
of thing. Oh,
yes.
right. That is
Um,
interesting.
and on set, they're playing with the dimension. How deep are you looking at? And uh, it's one of those things that once you're in that 3D headspace, you're designing a movie for 3D. You're not just looking at your monitor, shooting, and then in post production going, "Oh yeah, well, now let's turn it into 3D," because there's just different rules of cinematography for how you
Right.
frame framing devices. But the other thing was that they're specifically also making it with IMAX in mind, so they're also doing the
Large
taller,
format.
large format. Yeah, so that's
Mm.
one that I'm like, I think I'm gonna have to go
Yeah.
see that way.
That sounds pretty incredible. I don't know if our version of IMAX, there's only one cinema that I know used to have an official IMAX screen in it here in Brisbane. And that was a cinema in South Bank, which is sort of near the CBD. Um, but I think some of the other theatre chains are bringing out this format called VMAX. And I have a feeling that's probably the same because of course they want to cash in on the IMAX formats as well if they
Right.
could. So it has to be VMAX must be the IMAX version or the IMAX brand that these companies are actually doing. I would
Yeah.
think.
The bummer is that most IMAX that even around me, the majority of IMAX are what I call Limax.
Because they're not genuine
They're
IMAX.
not genuine. They're not the 6-story tall screen. They're not
Right.
taller than they are wide. Very few
Right.
movies. Basically, Christopher Nolan's the only one that shoots true IMAX, um, and utilizes that. And those screens are also they're film projection screens. They're not digital.
Oh, okay.
And so usually what you're seeing is the digital projection. It's not even a 4:3 screen that it's like a 1:6 ratio screen. So you are getting a little bit more top and bottom information, but it's not the incredibly jolting difference between going from this 3:4 image all the way down to a 240 image and then all the way back wide. Which when I saw The Dark Knight, it was just incredible seeing like that. I mean, and every time you want to talk about 4K resolution on TVs or whatever, when you see true IMAX using 70mm film, every time it popped into that, my eyes just relaxed. And like it was almost a sigh. That's the best way I can do. My eyes just kind of went, because it was just so detailed and so easy on the eye, and there was no strobing. There was no. It just looked natural, and it takes on a depth all its own, even without being in 3D. So it's just one of those interesting quirks that so few people are going to do. I mean, in Southern California, I think we only have 3 true IMAX screens.
Film projection IMAX.
Yeah. And none of those will be playing Alita, I guarantee you, because for 3D, it's only being digital projected. Right. It's not film projection. So
that's the limitation. IMAX is not. It wasn't future-proof with 3D in mind, because you actually have to have extra information on the film to.
Well, the IMAX cameras in general, IMAX film cameras, are enormous. Now you do IMAX 3D film cameras, and there were IMAX productions that for their educational series that did this. Those camera rigs were just massive, just stupid large, and they're noisy as hell, which means you don't get good audio, so everything has to be re-recorded. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Because I'd imagine, because there's not like a digital, there's not saving it to hard drive. There's a lot of chattering noise going on from those things. It'd be huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
So. Wow. It is, but anyway,
it sounds like it sounds like it's going to be a very interesting thing to see, particularly as like the director essentially emulating another director's vision,
emulating my favorite director.
Yeah. So this is good. Yeah, I could see you with your notepad and pencil out, going, ready to critique now.
Yeah, it's like for all the complaints that people have about Avatar or about Titanic, and groaning and moaning about Cameron with those, I still love him to death. There's nothing.
No, I agree. I think
everything he's ever done is gold to me.
even though Avatar is just Pocahontas as a storyline, it's still a fun version of Pocahontas to watch.
Yeah, everybody always says, "Oh, it was just Fern Gully." Well, I got news for you. I never watched Fern Gully, so I don't care.
That's right. It's an enjoyable switch off your brain, switch on your eyes, and watch the movie unfold.
I mean, in truth, every single drama out there is just a rip on Shakespeare. But
this is true.
So,
hey, one more thing before we go. I had a little surprise turn up in my mailbox the other day.
Okay, what's that?
So you might remember, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week actually, I mentioned that I got these really cool sort of enamel pins from this company called Nerd Pins.
Right, they look like little tiny
pinball machines.
Pinball machines, yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, I had a few spare spots on my my Netherworld lanyard of wizardry, where I have my little wizard pins on. So I thought, no, I'd fill up with this Twilight Zone pin, because it looks super detailed, and like you could see they even had like bits of the playfield visible, like some of the Powerball ramp and stuff like that. I thought, oh, that's really cool. All right, so I'll get one of these. I think they're like $10 US each, which for a large format pin is actually pretty good, pretty reasonable, really. So anyhow, I took them along to Netherworld, and I showed people at the pinball tournament. They were pretty stoked with it. And I just left it at that, really. I think I did a thing on Instagram and mentioned it last week in the show. So anyhow, this week, this little envelope, same sort of envelope that I got the first shipment of pins, turned up. And inside it were 4 pins. And I went, why? Why do I have these things? And it turned out that Joe, the person who runs Nerd Pins, was listening to the show last week, and it sent me some of the latest versions of the Nerd Pins for us to take a look at. So for those of you on YouTube, here is, I'll hold it back far enough.
Yep, that's far enough.
That's Adam's family. So that's pretty cool looking. So there'd be like, this is a full color pin. There's like probably about 6 or 7 colors, maybe more on this pin. So then here is, I guarantee you, the cheapest way that you will ever own a Big Lebowski pin. So you can get one of these for $10 and it'll probably work better than the Dutch pinball version anyhow. So there you go. Get yourself a one of these ones.
You got to mount that one on a little tiny miniature rug.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, I'm surprised actually. You see on the back, the little card stock that you get. Yeah. You got a little picture on the back, so it's got the boys from the movie on the back and the pins on the front. But yeah, you're right. It does need to be on the rug. I think you're right. The last one, that's the other thing they do too, is they don't just do pinball ones. They do arcade cabs. So I got two of the newest ones. This one is Spaceys. So Space Invaders, and it's like detailed all the way down to like the coin door. It even has like a representation of the old style, like nickel plated coin insertion with the little rocker on it thing. It's very detailed. So look, thanks Joe for sending them down to Australia for me. It was a very nice surprise to receive them in the post, and I've put them all up on Instagram, so I'll link that in the show notes. And yeah, do check out Nerd Pins, because it's not just arcade stuff and pinball stuff that Joe's got up there. He's got lots of internet meme stuff too. So if you like your memes, get up there and check out Nerd Pins. It's a pretty cool site.
Let's see. Is there anything else? I won't bore you with. I just rewatched the entirety of Lost. So all 121 episodes.
Jesus. Good
It was really fun the first 2 seasons, and then it started becoming daunting. It was still enjoyable, but man, am I glad that most shows are only 10 episodes long now, for a season, because those first 3 seasons were 24 episodes each or something like that.
Wow. That was the era of the super long seasons, right?
Yeah. Which is still how network TV does. Cable doesn't do it that way. Netflix doesn't do it, no. But network TV, by and large, still does these full giant.
So they can kind of fit a series sort of into half a year, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they usually run for. Yeah.
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 So I mean, and it's kind of why I don't watch a lot of network TV. I mean, hardly at all, because there's a lot of spinning of wheels. I mean, it's a different, when you think about when that kind of model was back in the day when there was only 3 channels, and TV shows weren't serialized at all. You didn't have to, you could have skipped 3 weeks of a certain series and come into the next episode, and who cares? It's the character's the character. It's basically Scooby-Doo. They're all wearing the exact same outfits. And, at minute 43, this kind of, in the 18, that's when they're going to build their big, machine in a montage that's going to solve the day. And,
your job's done. Formulate television. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it was just a matter of just filling out content. But now you start getting all these shows where it's all serialized and you got to pay attention week to week, everything. That's a long haul and a lot of storytelling of a consistent basis to go through. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like it's, good on the writers, because that's a challenge. It's not like a little standalone, like digestible 1 week sort of thing. Yeah. It's crazy.
So, and then you think about, like The Simpsons has done something in the nature of, they're almost at 700 episodes. If I'm not mistaken.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It's 25 seasons or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just,
there's so much like canon in that now.
I know. If you're trying to have to keep track of everything that went down, jokes.
Some people do.
Oh, I know. Some people do. That's some people's jobs.
Yes. So. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
Crazy.
All right. I guess we'll get to the particulars that we always say for the end because, you people don't want to get bored by them. But first and foremost, go buy a t-shirt. To do that, go to redbubble.com, give a search for BlahCade, and there you'll find all sorts of... You don't even have to just buy a t-shirt. If you want, you can buy a mug. You can buy
a phone case.
A phone case, right? Stickers, whatever. There's all sorts of stuff that you can spend. And that money helps us. For instance, Jared just sent me the bill for web hosting.
URL. Yeah.
Yep. So that's what that money goes towards, is keeping us up and running. And
we're pretty lean. As a show, we're pretty lean.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of expense doing this, but when they come in, it's like, oh yeah, here we go. Watch the bank balance deplete.
Well, I mean, basically for anybody watching on YouTube, just look at my microphone. That's a pretty tiny microphone. It's not one of these, pro grade mics.
Oh, geez, I mean, I only upgraded to like this thing recently because
right.
It's because it was cheap at Costco. So I just went, I need something a little bit better than my little thing that sits on the top of the laptop. So I had to do it.
Which I have to laugh. You can always tell when Jared's gone to Costco because all of a sudden there's a flurry of posts on his Twitter account of all the things that shiny that caught his eye.
Like the other day I went there and I saw like this amazing light up keyboard from Cooler Master. And I went, oh, that's shiny. Let's do a video on Instagram on that. And then a like a sous vide circulator thing that you can use to like cook things in bags. Who would have thought that Costco has that?
See, I have a Costco literally a block away from me, so it's not like, ooh, it's special.
Well, it's just down the road for me too, but I never really get a chance to go there and just explore it. Because how big Costco's are. Like, you never get a chance just to walk around it and go, I had no idea you're offering this particular car product that I have no idea that was there, but now I need. So I need to buy it now. Yeah.
But you can only buy it if you get 5 of them.
Yeah.
Make sure you follow us on Twitter. The show is at BlahCade. I am at Shut Your Trap, and he is at Jared Morgs. And then you too can find what Jared has found at Costco.
Adventures at Costco.
Adventures at Costco. And then make sure you check out the website, which is blahcadepinball.com/episodes. There you'll find all the show notes as well as links and videos and pictures that Jared likes to post. It's all good stuff. Way to keep track of what's going on in the show. There has been a question because terms of, hey, do we know what is coming next from Zen? No, we honestly don't know what's coming next from Zen. We don't know when next is coming from Zen. We did get a private notification that has us really excited, but we can't hint about anything of what it detailed.
But we can honestly say with our hands on our hearts, there is no details about tables or any of that sort of nature. None at all. So
we just kind of got some broad strokes that were very exciting.
Yeah. So we don't know.
Nope.
But
we're hoping. We'll see if we can manage this. Mel is currently in Budapest right now over at Zen Studios, and I'm wanting to line up an interview with some of the designers from Zen, and Mel's hopefully going to assist us with that. So we might have a special podcast coming up maybe next week or maybe the following week. We'll see when it shakes down. But
and it's probably a good time to invite our dear listener that if you have any questions that would relate maybe to not so much what's coming up next, but how Zen makes the sausage essentially. And how design happens at Zen. Any of those sort of questions that is more design related, probably not so much techie, but more design.
Not techie related. And not Williams Pinball specific, just kind of
in general.
Send
them through the show.
What's the workflow there? How is, like you said, how do they make the sausage?
Yeah, how do you make the sausage? So send the questions in, and we'll see if we can get them into the show.
You can send those via direct message on Twitter, or you can go ahead and drop us an email, blahcade@gmail.com. All right. Enough is enough. We'll call it there. Thank you all for listening. We will be back again next week. Until then, bye-bye.
Toodaloo.